bring you through Mr. Raj Basu and his association with rural tourism. He calls it the Grameen Paryatan, Andolan. He started the whole movement, and in fact, his is the first homestay, it seems, that was brought for everyone to utilize as an experience of how we live and coexist with the rural India. And isn't that where the real spirit of India still lives? And we were to have this webinar on the 29th, but the weather had not supported. And so therefore we brought it for you again today. And hopefully the weather will sustain us. However, as all humanity always learns from every experience, today Mr. Dada has kept a backup team in Calcutta. So that's the spirit of the times, that humanity, we are strong, we are resilient, and as we are beating COVID-19 and we are emerging stronger and stronger every day as a country, as a world, stay healthy, stay safe, watch the beautiful Himalayan Bengal with us. Namaskar, and all yours, Raj Dada, to tell everybody and walk us through the amazing Himalayan region.
Yes, yes. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much for the introduction. Namaste, Tashitile, Achule, to all of you. It is very strange when you say Bengal by Himalaya. For all of you, it must be very strange, because whenever you talk about Bengal, you say Bengal, you relate it to Kolkata, you relate it to Durga Puja, you relate it to the sweets. But how much of us we relate Bengal to Kanchenjunga? This is, and there is a very long history of this connectivity, which we are going to get into today. But more than anything else, because I was born in this landscape, so there is so much to tell all of you about this region, which I want to tell you everything, but the time and everything put together, there is only little bits and things that I can put together. I will try and put together my childhood nostalgia, which was always there. So some of the things which comes from my childhood nostalgia, some of the things, which I have worked on for so many years, for the last 36 years on the ground with my organization. So, these are the different aspects that we will be introduced to through this a very humble presentation that I am trying to make to all of you. And this, I would say, that is on behalf of the entire traveling community of Bengal, be them from any background, be it Marwari, Bihari speaking, or a Hindi speaking, Tamil speaking, or a Bengali speaking. If you are in Bengal for a period of time, you will be bit by the travel bug, and that is what what makes our region, our place so beautiful. So the Himalayan part of Bengal is always the second home for the entire Bengal and the entire country, I would say, India, which is over there. So I will take you through this presentation. I have, if you see, I'll try and share my screen. Yes, Bengal by Himalaya, the center of the third pole. I will come back why I called the presentation the center of the third pole, and why Bengal by Himalaya is the center of the third pole. I'll explain you that in details, as much as I can, as much as I know. But before that, as I said, Bengal is hardly known by Kanchenjunga, but we will see how people over here, for them, Kanchenjunga is the guardian deity. There's a small little video which I would like to present.
यहाँ तल तुरुकमा पहिलो कदमबाट सिधै झर्यो कि अचानक झरेर राम्रो
आन्दोलनमा के रहेछ ग्रामीण पर्यटनको आन्दोलन हामी ग्रामीण पर्यटनको थ्रुबाट जुन हाम्रो गभर्मेन्टबाट पढाउँदैछ त्यो त ठिकै छ गभर्मेन्टको किताबहरू गभर्मेन्टले पढाएको त्यहाँ ठिकै छ फेरि त्यहाँ किताबमा चाहिँ बुद्धिस्टको त्यो जतक कथा छ कि छैन त्यो नानीहरूले चाहिँ अलिकति मोरल साइन्स जस्तो त्यो सिकाएको छैन त्यस्तै लेप्चामा जस्तो तपाईँको स्कुलमा अलिकति लेप्चा अक्षरमा अ आ इ जुन लेखेको हुन्छ अमा के हुन्छ ईमा उसले देखिराखेको जस्तो पबाट पहाड देखिरहेको छ खबाट खोला देखिरहेको छ अबाट अदुवा देखिरहेको छ त्यस्तो पाराले लेप्चा भाषामा पनि त्यो चाहिँ एकदम सानो नानीहरूदेखि नै पढायो भने के हुन्छ
ब्रिटिसहरूले आएर के भन्यो यस कञ्चनजङ्घा भनेर बनाइदियो किचुङ जङ्बु हाम्रो भाषा शक्तिशाली पर्वत उसले एक दाहिने मुठीको एक मुठी हिउँ.
So, just coming to this community, a wonderful community, out of the several communities over here, this is one of the most oldest community. And no one knows who named them Lepchas because they also do not know. They call themselves the Romkoops, the children of the Kanchanjunga, that is, they call them, And the valleys and the rivers, the waterfalls that you see around them in the villages that they live, for every little thing, they go and pray to them and they take permission of the nature, the permission of the skies, the permission of the rains. For every little thing that they do in their house, they take permission. And this is with almost all the communities. And, these communities are not within something, what you say, which is not based on religions or something, but this is something what we call is biodivinity. You find your divine forces in nature because it is so much of nature around you, and all the communities, they initially begin with this, and whatever religion they adopt, they bring in this, their belief in the nature of the divine forces. So they know that their ancestors are into this nature, and they find their souls, and their souls are over here. So this is a wonderful concept for the entire region, which begins from here in the Bengal Himalaya and spreads across northeastern part of India. So when you look at this mighty peak, the Kanchanjunga, the highest peak of our country, the highest peak of India, it is amazing. Somebody calls it the sleeping Buddha. Somebody calls it the Mahakal because, it has gone beyond time. The Denzongpa community, they call it Kangchenjunga, the large mountain of 5 treasures, what they call, there are a lot of communities who call it Kanchenjunga, the snow, the mountains of snow. So the mountains of gold, Kanchan is gold, and the mountains of gold, Kanchanjunga. So that is what they call. So you can see the majestic mountain, this mountain from everywhere of the region. And, not only in the region, it goes across the borders. So this was the basic, the guardian deity. This is considered as the guardian deity of our region for ages over here. And then while I talk about the center of the 3rd pole, now look at this map. This map is the Hindu Kush Himalayan region map, and scientists across the world have seen into this water tower and the kind of population, the natural elements that we have over here, the elements of the community, the diversity that we have over here. So everything, the biodiversity, the cultural diversity, and everything put together, the scientists have started calling this entire Hindu Kush Himalayan region as the 3rd pole. And if you just look at that red spot in the middle, that is Bengal Himalaya. And if you go back to the past, between the 5th century and maybe 12th century, you will see that this was the region where most of the people, most of the European colonial people who came over here to India, they started to find a new journey, because they wanted to move from the Indus and the Ganges Valley and move to an area which could be more convenient to connect the sea, the maritime route, with the mountain route, that is the Silk Route. And this, if you look very carefully, this is the nearest point where the maritime route, that is on the Bay of Bengal, the Chittagong port of the past, which is a heritage. From where we start the rice route of the maritime route, it connects the Silk Route in Lhasa so easily through this channel. And there's this numerous rivers, because in those days there were no roads, so the river route took them all the way up to these areas, very easily. And from there, things were carried on horseback, on muleback, on porters, and these routes were formed. So, connecting the rice route with the Silk Route was something that has worked for ages, and that had given the glory, because this is when we contributed terracotta to the world. This is when we contributed weaving to the world. That was a major part of civilization, a major part of trade that we taught to the world. So that is where we were. But then, when the Europeans, from the Dutch, the French, the Armenians, the English, the Scottish, everyone started making their home over here. They started finding new hope in this area. And if you see, there are several names, from scientists, doctors, painters, academicians, everyone, missionaries, everyone came and started finding opportunities over here, started exploring this new area. But I will name only a few. I will talk about Sir Dalton Hooker, Sir Joseph Dalton Hooker. He was a botanist, and when you open up the botanical terminologies, you will find that 20% of the names in the botanical, this one ends with his name Hooker. So that is the kind of survey that he did between 1847 to 1851, which he called the India Voyage to the Himalaya. Then again, into another role, we cannot do without naming Father Auguste, who was a French missionary. And he came all the way exploring this region, and from Calcutta to Darjeeling and further through Kalimpong, he settled down in a place known as Pedong. And Pedong in those days was more known as British Bhutan, because other people, even the English, were not allowed to settle in that area. It was only the Bhutanese people who were allowed to settle in that area for the purpose of trade and everything. So this Pedong settlement was quite something that Father Auguste, he worked over there, a French missionary, and his mission was known as the South Tibet Mission, where he wanted to explore. Then if we cannot do without naming Sander Soma. He was the Hungarian Indologist. And believe it or not, in those days, without passport and without money, he traveled all the way to this region, and he became the father of Tibetology. And the first introduction of Tibet was made to the rest of the world. He made the Tibetan dictionary, and gradually he set up the rules of Tibetology. He brought in so much of knowledge and connect, which was not known to the rest of the world. So that was Zander Zoma. If you look at the pictures close by, the picture down below is the Lasha Villa. Again, a great scholar who came in the late 1900s, means between 19th century, that is between 1879, that period, as the headmaster of the Tibetan school over there. And then he walked into Tibet twice, not once, twice he walked into Tibet. He went over there, he found out several Tibetology interest things which would interest to the world. He brought them and kept it into the Lasha Villa for a very long time. And this Lasha Villa though it is lost in the crowd of the buildings today, but the small house still remains. So you all must read Sharat Chandra Das, a great traveler, a great Tibetologist, because he has written each and every details of his diary in his books. And the house above, we must mention that, because that is the administrative headquarters of the Hill Council of the Gorkhaland Territorial Administration that we have. And this is a house that was built by one of the Maharajas in the memory of his wife, and Maharaja Prasad Nath Roy. He named it Giri Vilas. So Giri Vilas was one of the most sought after place for all the Europeans who were there, because the Maharaja used to throw big parties, and they wanted to possess this house. It was so much so that the administration in 1944 took over the house, saying that the Maharaja is not being able to maintain it. But after independence, slowly, gradually, it was transformed into the administrative headquarters. And later, when a movie that was shot over here, which is known as Lal Koti. So this movie is a must see. You all must see this movie. Tanuja, who played a major role over here, Darjeeling has been known for the movie. So Lal Koti, the house came to be known as Lal Koti after that. So these are the small stories which is spread around the entire Bengal Himalaya, Then the famous song of Mere Sapno Ki Rani Kabhi Aayegi Tu, up to the songs in Parinita, the Darjeeling Himalayan Railway that has been highlighted. But when we talk about the people who have been here, who have visited here, who have lived here, amongst the hundreds of names, we cannot, at this moment of time, we cannot miss the name of Sister Nivedita. Margaret Elizabeth Noble, who came to India with in the invitation or with the call of Swami Vivekananda. And it was during 1899 when the Calcutta plague broke out. She played such a major role going into the communities, going into every lane, cleaning them up, looking after the patients, looking after the taking the dead and doing the rightful things, teaching the people how to handle this crisis of plague. So this was her role in India. She almost gave everything, and she was a frequent, like all other scientists, scholars, writers, artists. She was a frequent visitor to Darjeeling, and she usually stayed in this house known as Roy Villa. And people came and saw her at the Roy Villa. She was a part of the Indian freedom movement for in several ways. The Buddhist movement across the world was actually initiated to a large extent by her. And on the 13th of October, before she passed away, early morning, when the first rays of the sun rays was on the Kanchenjunga, she expressed, "The boat is sinking, but I shall see the sunrise." And people have never forgotten her in this small hill town of Darjeeling. She's always been remembered in Bengal, especially in the Bengal Himalayan portion, for her contribution. So moving next, this is about the organization that I belong to. We work on empowerment of communities through tourism to conserve their heritage, our mission and our work across. But while talking of the area that we want to bring in the front is, this is the map of Bengal. If you look into the entire map of India, as you come out, there is a small little chicken-like structure, which is known as West Bengal. And then the top portion, is part what is known as north of West Bengal, or specifically known as North Bengal. And, the other part, the Himalayan part of it, if you see, is just beyond the 13 kilometers of of the chicken's neck that we have. This 13 kilometers of the chicken neck integrates the entire northeastern part of India with the rest of the country. We are connected through this 13, a little more than 13 kilometers corridor to the rest of the country, which is less than 2%. And the rest 98%, we are the entire northeastern part is connected to South and Southeast Asia, and that is why all of us living in this Eastern Himalayan region, we always hope that Northeast India would someday be the tourism gateway of the country, because it is land linked to the rest of the continent. So this Himalayan area of Bengal, it consists of basically the district of Darjeeling, Kalimpong, Jalpaiguri, Kuch Bihar, and Alipurduar that we have. These are the Himalayan districts of Bengal. And the major attraction which has been brought into limelight, which is that is the Darjeeling Himalayan Railway. People lovingly call it the toy train, the toy train ride, the famous toy train ride when you come and visit this part of Sikkim and North Bengal, or the Bengal Himalayan portion. This is what you look for, is just after Kanchenjunga, it's something what you talk about is this World Heritage Site. And Terry Martin in his book describes this journey as halfway to heaven. And talking about none other than Mark Tully, who mentions this as a journey to paradise. His father was the director of the Darjeeling Himalayan Railway for a period of time, and in his childhood period, he spent a little bit of time in this Bengal Himalayan portion, and he went to school in this Darjeeling Himalayan Railway. He has very fond memories of the Darjeeling Himalayan Railways. So I'll just show you how it chucks through. This is a video that I tried to put together. Yes, that's the extraordinary Darjeeling Himalayan Railway, which was designated as the World Heritage Site in 1999. It has been into existence since 1881. And, the best part is it runs through so many landscapes. It starts from the plains of the foothills, it goes to the forest in the Himalaya, and then it goes up to the backdrop of the Kanchenjunga, with the Kanchenjunga seeing overlooking to this DHR. So this wonderful landscape is a nostalgia. Whoever has come to this Bengal Himalaya has not forgotten. We have a big organization by the name of Darjeeling Himalayan Railways Society, which is based out of London, and it has more than 2,000 members across the world, and they come every year over here, the members, and they are so nostalgic about it. Like they will take the coal bits, when the coal engine throws the coal bits, they will take these coal bits on the hair, and then they'll take it down on the handkerchief and take it back as souvenir back to their countries. And the best thing is, these are the facts, there are 177 unmanned level crossings, and there are 5 reverses and 3 loops. And talking about the reverses, this is only a 2-feet railway. This is the only surviving, living, and fully running 2-feet railway, running all this 80 kilometers of distance. This reverses was a strange thing that happened, that the engineer who was there, he was stuck up. He said, he was frustrated because he couldn't take the 2-feet railway further because it was so steep at places. So he came back for lunch, and he told his wife, I think we have to go back to our country, darling, because I cannot build any more railway further. But then his wife expressed, in a ballroom, when you reach the corner, you're allowed to reverse. So that struck him. He left his lunch. He immediately rushed to the field, and he then reversed it. He brought it reverse, and then that is how he negotiated the entire steep hills over there. So there are so many stories of this kind when you go across. The names of the places like Wrong Bull, we call it Wrong Bull. It is said that there was a big stone, And when the engineer was trying to build the railway, he couldn't, break the stone. So they called it the wrong bull. So there are the several stories all along the line. And a little later than the Darjeeling Himalayan Railway, there was this railway which connected Kalimpong, it was known as the Tista Valley Railway, which went to the to the western bank of the Tista, and it was the Kalimpong road station, which is no more. We lost the entire thing by 1972. But Darjeeling Himalayan Railway is still living. We have the entire route over here. So the Darjeeling Himalayan Railway is interesting because it runs through the houses, through the verandas, through the kitchens, through the houses, and in the reverse or the loops, you can actually get down into one of the houses, drink a cup of tea, and get back to the train. And you can see the landscape when it comes down to Siliguri, the big buildings at the backdrop, at the foothill plains. And then when you are up in the mountains, you can see the whole Kanchenjunga range at the backdrop. So this is what the Darjeeling Himalayan Railway is about. And every station, there are about 13 stations that we have, and every station has a history. This is the Siliguri town station, which is now almost in abandoned condition. This is where the Darjeeling Himalayan Railway had started. So every station has a legend, has a history. Like when you look at this station, there was a time when there was each and everyone, from the viceroy to the freedom fighter to the writer to the painter, everyone took this journey on this Darjeeling Himalayan Railway. And there are so many stories which are connected in the pre movement, the pre-freedom movement over here, And these stories like Bhaga Jyotin, a lot of you must have heard about Jyotindranath Mukherjee, who in his young days had actually fought with a tiger. So he was named Bhaga Jyotin. He was very famous as Bhaga Jyotin. And he was into one of these coaches when a very old lady, if you can look in the black and white picture, you can see on that corner that is protruding, there used to be a tap. They said there used to be a tap over there for drinking water. And there was this old poor lady who had come to take a little bit of water for drinking. And two British soldiers came and kicked her, saying that, you are not allowed to use this tap. And Bhagajatin, when he saw this, he couldn't take it. He came and gave a mighty blow to these two soldiers, and they were completely senseless on the ground. A case was there against him, but when this case went to the judge, the British judge asked, I can give a judgment against Bhagajutin and put him behind bars. I can say, with one blow, he had made two soldiers, British soldiers, senseless. But do you want this to come into record? And then they withdrew the case, and the case was. So there are these kind of stories with almost all the DHR stations that you see, all the heritage that you see over here. This is the heart actually in Tindharia. This is the workshop. There is a handful of people who still maintain this railway manually. Our DHR society has helped the railways in bringing in some technology of maintenance, but it is mostly done in this one. It is a must-visit place, this Tindharia workshop, that is the heart. But above all, we have to understand that why this DHR was built. And this DHR was built for one reason, and that is the famous Darjeeling tea. This famous Darjeeling tea that we have, that is what has actually brought in the DHR. 20 years, it was 1840s that the Darjeeling tea had started its walk into the region. The Darjeeling tea is known for the wonderful flavor that it has. It has a musky type flavor, which is known. That is why it is known as muscatel. It comes in the different forms. It is orthodox tea and comes in the form of black, green, white, and oolong in the different forms. And in spite China, it is believed that China had began with the tea about in 2700 BC, but still the tea that rules the world, that is favorite to the world, is the Darjeeling tea. That is what all of us know. And the Darjeeling tea, a lot of us think it is because of the geography. Yes, the geography of the place plays a major role. This is, the small Chinese tea leaves that you can see over here. That is planted in Darjeeling. But it is the people it is the woman over here, because the plucking has to be done by the woman. And that is the reason in all Darjeeling tea estate, more than 80% of the human resource are women. And only the two leaves and the bud has to be plucked of the Darjeeling tea, because no other part can be processed. So it is a very fine plucking. The entire process has to be monitored very well. So it is a entire process of this Darjeeling tea, it is the geography and the people who make this cup of tea. So whenever you drink a cup of Darjeeling tea, please come and see what goes behind, the emotions that goes behind this cup of tea. Because in Darjeeling, in this Darjeeling Orthodoxy, they try and maintain the integrity of the entire leaf, unlike the Assam tea or the CTC tea that we say. Because the CTC tea, which is more in bulk, which is easy to transport, is this name CTC comes from the crush, tear, and curl. That is a methodology of doing it. But in case of this orthodox processing, you have to maintain the integrity of the tea, and there are this different processes all the way from plucking to withering to rolling to oxidation to firing, and then finally the tea testing that gives you the best of the tea. So when we take this tea journey in India, it starts from the extreme northeast Myanmar border, from where the Bruce brothers through Maniram Devanji, they found out this tea, and then they made the tea tree. The tea tree can grow up very high. They used to pluck it from the elephant back. But for the industrial tea that we drink today, it has to be pruned to the level of the waist. That is why in the previous picture that you see, they are plucking at that level. It's easier to pluck at that level. So it can be a whole day on the history of tea. But when you talk about tea, when you talk about the plantations in the Bengal Himalaya, we had three major plantations. One is the forest plantation, the Cinchona plantation, and certainly the tea plantations. And to overlook this entire, to supervise this entire plantations, the managers used to be brought, from Scotland, from UK, and from the other places. They used to be brought over here. And they were given these bungalows to stay in, this space, where they wouldn't miss their country. And this entire space was so well looked after. So these bungalows used to be known as dak bungalows, because dak comes from the word post mail actually. So this post offices, the post mail is all about the dak bungalows that we have. So this dak bungalow itself became a culture on its own. The hospitality of the dak bungalows became a culture on its own. So you can see over here the inside of a Cinchona bungalow and the outside of tea bungalows. If you look very carefully, it was a space that was being nurtured over here, so that the Mem Sahab, the lady of the house, used to be back home alone. So the Mem Sahab used to be there waiting for the Sahab, looking after each and everything from garden to the kitchen. And for helping her, we had posts like Khanchama, we had posts like Mali, we had posts like Chokidar, which helped her, and she trained them up, to look after that. And by the time she had left, another manager came in, and another Mem Sahab came in. Even if she didn't know the culture, she learned the dak bungalow culture from these people, from this help that was there in this dak bungalow, from the Khansamas, from the Malis, and from the Chokidars. So this is a culture that has developed over here in Bengal Himalaya for years and years, the dak bungalow culture. And today it is being used in tourism. We have almost 450 tea estate, including the entire Bengal Himalayan region of the hills, Dooars in the Terai region, of which more than 200 bungalows can still be revived and can be used for the purpose of tourism. Already 21 bungalows are running fully, and it is being done very well. It started with a bungalow in Paskawa in Dooars on the Bhutan border. It started from there as the tea resort, and then one of the most popular bungalow, the picture if you see, is from the Prakash family, the Glenburn tea estate that you can see over here. It is just to see its popularity, being attached with all the bungalows, trying to bring in the Mem Sahab cultures over here, working with the local tea people in every aspect, how they can highlight their own belonging, the heritage of tea. That is what we have always tried to bring in through this Dug bungalow culture. And when we talk about Dug bungalow culture, we didn't forget the forest, the wonderful nature that we have in this region. This entire nature which was there, we wanted the local people to get involved. So what we did is we developed jungle camps with the local people into this huge forest areas, which had the space of the Mem Sahab, that hospitality, the essence of the Mem Sahab hospitality, the essence of the space of the sun, which tourists is to enjoy. But at the same time, in the architecture, in the services, we made sure that the local people, it became a part of them. So the architecture came from the nature that was over there. So over here, this is the Neora Valley jungle camp. You can see how the architecture is from the local stone, the foundation is from the local stone, and the dhupi trees, or the Cryptomeria japonica, which is cut down by the forest as firewood. The outside has been used to make the walls and everything. But the space inside in the hospitality, the villagers have tried to retain the old Mem Sahab Dug bungalow culture. And coming back to the forest, this small little area, it has more than it has 11 protected areas over here. So it's almost a complete green area that you see over here. And it is very well connected by two major reserves, that is the Eastern Dooars Elephant Reserve and the Boxer Tiger Reserve, and the forest divisions, the Darjeeling Forest Division, the Kalimpong Forest Division, and the Jalpaiguri Forest Division, that connects this protected area. So it is a continuity that you actually see, which makes this nature lovers, an attraction core, because people across the world look forward to this region as a for their natural interest in natural phenomena. And when we talk about the foothill areas, the entire foothill and the plains areas is the habitat of the elephants. We have more than 500 elephants in the wild that they have biological migration from the Bhutan border to the Nepal border. And they cover this entire region, and this is a place where we have numerous visitors, we have numerous people who live over here. Then as you go ahead, on the higher altitudes, you can see the higher altitude is mostly the areas which is 5,500 feet and above in the Bengal Himalaya, is more of a red panda habitat. And we have this high altitude forest over here, from the temperate zone, how it goes into the alpine zone. And these places are the heaven for bird watchers, for botanical hunters, and everyone that you think about, because we have more than 5,000 flowering plants over here, flowering trees over here. We have more than 150 mammals that can be seen over here, and more than 600 species of birds for the birders that can be seen over here in this region. So, and the entire wonderful hospitality that you have. As you come to the foothill areas, it is known as the Dooars areas. And over here, if you see, sorry. Yes, going back to the main screen over here, if you see, this is known as the Gajaldoba Ecotourism Project. This has been the dream project of the government of West Bengal. This was a barrage that had been built, a dam that had been built over here, and the water body that was logged in over here, the water body which was there. In fact, it became a bird sanctuary, Pakhibitan, and there is an ecotourism complex that has been developed over here to engage the local people into different kind of activities based on nature, with adventure, with everything, where tourists, where travelers can come and enjoy. So this is a model that is in the making, but it is already very popular. And as we continue from here, from this Tista all the way to the Dhansiri River, is an area which is technically known as Dooars. The name Dooar comes from the gateway, because these were in the past the trade gateways. So this 18 Dooars was with the request of the Kuch Bihar Maharaja, because it was under the Kuch Bihar kings, which was taken over by the Bhutanese for a very long time. And then they wanted it back. So with the help of the British, the Kuch Bihar king got it back. This 35 kilometers wide and 350 kilometers long area in the Dooars War that happened between 1864, 1865. This area was taken over. All these Dooars were taken over. So plantations were put up over here, tea plantations. You can see the picture of the Coronation Bridge, which was during the coronation of King George, that was built. So 1937, I think. So that's the reason the name Coronation Bridge came in. You can see a picture of the Pilkhana. We have some of the best, elephant nurseries with the forest department, which is there. So the Pilkhana, which are there, the multi-community. On the right top, I can see, this is time with Oshia, the great show that we had shot. There are a lot of shootings which have taken place over here from National Geographic, from BBC Wildlife, and also Oshia's big adventures when he talked about Ka in his Jungle Book. The python. The shoot began from here with finding. So because he wanted to start from the east and move to the rest of India. So this is this in 1869. This area came under Jalpaiguri district, which is exactly, I think, close to 150 years. And this was known as the Bengal Dooars, which is part of the Bengal Himalaya, and also very popular and a connectivity or integration to Assam and to Bhutan. And when we talk about all these landscapes that we see, the major thing that what we have to see is a movement that we have run in the region. As ma'am has said, today only in the Bengal Himalaya we have a network of more than 1,200 homestays in about 200 villages. Which continues in only the Bengal Himalayan area of hills, Terai and Dooars. And this is only in the rural areas. I'm not talking about the towns and the cities and the popular tourism destination. This is only in the rural areas. And these homestays, as you can see from the picture, is almost in the middle of nowhere. At the edge of a forest, at the edge of a mountain, at the edge of a tea garden. It's almost nowhere. It is the approach road is a rough fair weather road to this homestay. But what we have done in this period of 3 decades, we could train all these communities, and the basic infrastructure has been put into place. If you see very closely, you will see that the basic infrastructure of the washrooms, of the beds, of the food, and the hygiene, everything is taken care of, over here, quite often. So this is what you see, that what we had started as a movement over here. So it is basically to empower the local people to get engaged, to be proud of the natural and cultural heritage. So this is a connect, which has helped us, a lot, and on several occasions. As the infrastructure for the Bengal Himalaya, you can imagine more than 4,000 rooms in the middle of nowhere is something what is a great infrastructure for special interest visitors who come to this region. The people in the homestays initially, they become part of it. We believe that the homestay is around the fire. Anywhere you go in Asia, it is the fire within the home that is the factor that works. So the sharing the fire, sharing the kitchen is something that we always think is a major activity for the homestays. That is what makes the homestay. It is not comparable. It is with any resort or lodge or hotel, because this is the most secured and the most private area that the host shares with you. So the culture, the inside of the community and their way of living that is shared over here. So you learn to cook traditionally, you learn to be involved into agriculture traditionally, you learn to believe in the biodivinity practices with them, over there, and you be a part of it. Uh, and this is how, they have been engaged for more than 2.5 decades. Fully, these homestays have been there, for such a long time over here. And what brought the change into this region, to these homestays and this rural Bengal is volunteerism. Because volunteerism for us is something, what we believe is, is a resource exchange. It is not one-way giving. It is all of you who are back in the cities. You have a lot of advanced learning into health, hygiene, education, enterprise, and all these things. So these are the things we want you from the cities to come to these villages with this learning, and exchange it with the villagers, with their rooted traditions, with their culture of biodiversity, with their backyard biodiversity knowledge. You share with them. This is what we look forward to all the time whenever you come in actually to this region. So be a volunteer, and volunteering means you are immersed into a village for such a long time, for about at least 2 weeks, because most of the volunteering program, it starts with 2 weeks and goes up to 3 months and almost a year. So this is how our volunteers come and stay. And
Dada, I'm going to intervene after you finish this. We'll quickly try and take a couple of questions
we'll do that. I'll just show a small film and then tell about the healing village and finish. So a part of the film only.
When we cough, the saliva on our hand is germs. One more time, germs.
हामी हाँस्नु काट्दाखेरि हाम्रो हातमा कीटाणुहरू आउँछ त्यसलाई चाहिँ के भन्छ
All her saliva is wash our hands. Understand?
हामीले खग्दाखेरि हाम्रो नाकबाट कीटाणुहरू आउँछ त्यो कीटाणुको नाम के हो भनेर
स्टार्टिङ जीबाट हुन्छ अरे
बुझ्यो त्यही कारण हामी जहिले पनि हात धुनुपर्छ
Now teacher Cheryl will teach us how to wash our hands cleanly the right way. Everybody okay, first step like this. Back and forth, back and forth. Second step, here, the back of your head. Yes. Everyone cross your Okay, now fifth step. Everyone like this. Now we flip over. One more time. One more time. Yes, correct. Everyone follow.
So this is what the volunteers have done in the very remote villages. So this program has been running for the last 10 years. So these volunteers have transformed villages into, self-sufficient. They are not dependent on it. They are self-sufficient. They are independent. And travel writers, international travel writers, international artists, they come and have their get together in these villages for long periods. This is how things go on. Before we take on the questions, a few slides that I would take you through the food and tell you a little about this no footprint malls that we have, this weekly heart that we have is a place, where people come for every purpose that they have, from hair cutting to looking for brides and grooms, for their food, to sell, to buy, and everything. So this heart is a very important way of life, where we have, a display of the magic hands and the living heritage. The activities within the villages, the adventure activities, HMI is supposed to be the first, mountaineering at the Adventure Institute of Asia. People come here from the weaving background, fashion designers and all, to learn jewelry, weaving and designs and colors from here. And the best part is, other than the volunteering portion, for the last 1 year we have started something what is known as the healing villages. So across the Bengal Himalaya, even all the way from Sikkim, from Nepal, from Arunachal Pradesh, we have been bringing in villages to learn the healing village techniques. A healing village is that, which is healing. The village has to heal on its own, and the village that heals it. Based on the 6 senses that we have, the healing is done. So maybe in the post-COVID period, all of you can come to these healing villages. These are healthy, hygiene, and wonderful villages that we have. We are very close to the different international borders. Like, you can have your breakfast in Bangladesh, lunch in Bhutan, and tea in Nepal, and come and have dinner with me at my home in Siliguri. These were how we promote with the face of agriculture with our road shows. Yes, that was fast to go through, fast walk. But a little bit of time, as ma'am has said, we will go for the questions. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Can we?
Thank you. Thank you so much. There's so much to see, viewers. As you can see, that I think we can do a whole session on just the healing villages, especially in the post-COVID era. I'm so tempted to ask many questions, but I also want to share something with the viewers. A lot of people have said this, so I will share that the name Kanchenjunga, viewers, literally means the 5 treasures of snow. And what are the treasures? Salt, gold, precious stones, sacred scriptures, and the invincible armor. But what is also very amazing to know about this land is that the Himalayan range is the abode of one of the principal Hindu deities, Shankar Mahadev, the Lord Shiva, also known as Bholenath-ji. It is said that it is his breath, the breath of the god, that brings the winds that cool the brow of the sun-filled valley, and the mist and the fog, which we saw in the pictures, provides the unique quality to the tea from this region. Darjeeling, they say, was born as a thunderbolt from the scepter of Lord Indra. So there's so much in this place, but Dada, if you could tell people where is the closest airport and how do they get there? And another question was, why do women pluck the tea leaves and why not the men?
Yes, I will answer to the first one first, ma'am. The first one is, yes, we have a very nice and a very busy airport. It is one of the fastest growing airports in our country. It is known as the Bagdogra Airport. This used to be a defense airport, which now, is a airport which is a big civil. We have a big civil section of this airport over here. So that is a major airport. And the New Jalpaiguri station, this railway station is very important because all connectivities to the northeastern part of India has to go through the New Jalpaiguri station. So this is a very important place, and this has been developed as a model international station. We have people who are challenged, and who are people, we have all kind of facilities over here. And this is the only place where you have the narrow gauge and the broad gauge, which are side by side, which is nowhere in the world. You have the narrow gauge and the broad gauge. And we have a huge bus terminal, which is known as the Tenzing Norgay bus terminal, which is very well connected to the eastern capitals, to Guwahati, to Patna, to Itanagar, to obviously Kolkata. So, and the road connectivity is now wonderful. As you know,
It's not hard to travel at all, viewers.
It is.
And
It is.
we have one more minute to go, so you have to tell everybody why women pluck the tea leaves.
Yes, ma'am. Because this is the finesse is there in the woman.
Thank you all the women viewers. I'm sure they're so happy to hear that.
and that is established.
It's the women who do the fine things. Thank you for that.
Yes, and that has been established to the Darjeeling tea. The finest taste of the tea comes to the plucking and the processing by the woman. So
Great.
that is what makes
I'm pushed from my team that we have to say a namaskar now, because we're coming to the end of the time allotted. Thank you so much, Raj Basudada. And on Tuesday, not on Monday this time, we are taking a little longer break. On Tuesday, we shall take you to Rangla, Punjab, the vibrant Punjab, Tuesday, 11 a.m. Tune in with us. Thank you, viewers. Thank you for staying with us and encouraging us. Stay safe.
Thank you,
stay
everyone.
healthy.
Thank you, viewers.
Namaskar to
Thank you,
everyone.
viewers.